maybe one or two?
No, I have some bird pictures.
Awesome. Okay, so we're getting ready to go to Borneo with Liz and Bert, and you've been there more than once, haven't you? All right, so this is going to be a heck of a trip. Take it away, Liz.
Okay, so we went to Borneo twice in October 2022, and then just last March. They were both part of longer trips, mostly to go diving in Papua New Guinea, and then we just kind of went there too because we were kind of near it. So Borneo, we went to Sabah, and this is part of Indonesia. I mean, Malaysia. Sarawak is part of Malaysia. All of Kalimantan is part of Indonesia, and Burmese a independent sultanate. And Sabah actually has its own customs entry, like you clear customs in Kuala Lumpur, and then you have to clear it again in Sabah. They have a little bit of kind of self-governing. So this is just kind of a map of Sabah. The dark things are the existing primary rainforest. And everything else in the country is secondary forest or palm oil plantations and agriculture. They have about 65% forest cover and 35% is basically palm oil plantations. And we started in Sandakan. We went to Sepalak here, two different places on the Kinabatangan River here, to Danum Valley Conservation Area and to Hektabin Wildlife Reserve between the two trips. So we're starting out. This is a Labuk Bay proboscis monkey sanctuary. It's really close to Sandakan. It was really fun to go because you could see them up really close. So we saw tons in the wild. And they said some people founded it kind of like 1998 when there was a big El Nino event and there was a drought and the monkeys started invading their kitchens and eating pancakes and coffee or something to get food. So they kind of set aside 500 acres and they have like 300 monkeys there and a bunch of other wildlife. But there were lots of moms with babies, so it was really fun. And just for whatever, we had 2 iPhones and a point-and-shoot TG5. So that's what all the pictures are from. We didn't have any kind of telephoto or really big camera gear. This is just a cool plant. It's a Chinese chestnut. They're an Asian plant. They said they're super cultivated in China, and you can eat the seeds all different ways, and they saute them and use them in food. So it was just a really pretty.
Did you try any?
No, I didn't even know what it was till I got back here and looked it up. We just found that it was really cool and didn't know what it was. And this is another red water lilies, which are also native to this area. They were everywhere, and I guess they're cultivated all around the world. So now we are in the Borneo Sun Bear Conservation Center. And in Sepalak, there's a Sun Bear Conservation Center and an Orangutan Conservation Center. They both are rescued animals, almost all cubs and young from the endangered wildlife trade. And so this is a black-banded squirrel, which I think we saw 4 different kinds of squirrels. They're everywhere. We saw tons of them. They're about the size of our squirrels. And this is a Bornean green-killed pit viper, which was right next to the boardwalk. Right next to the boardwalk, like you could have touched it. When I actually read about it online, it said they don't usually kill people as long as you're close to good medical care.
And were you?
Well, yeah, with this we were right near Sandakan, the main town. Okay. So here's the sun bear. So I think they have like 44 sun bears. They're fenced in. They have all these big fenced in forest areas. They try and keep them somewhat wild so they can rehome them. They've only ever rehomed 12. 6 of them died right away. A couple in fights with other bears in the territory, and I think 4 of them just not been able to forage for enough food. They said most of them are so traumatized from being in the wildlife trade that they're never going to be able to let them go. They get about 3 to 5 cubs a year, and they're really trying to extend like protection efforts so they don't have to so they can keep the population up in the wild. But they're really cool, and they insects, fruit, and honey, and they're like cloud.
So they're how big?
Oh, they're not super big. I guess they're one of the smallest bears. They're probably kind of that size.
Black bear size.
They're not even that big. I don't know. What do you think, Bert? Like 250 pounds or something?
Yeah,
maybe?
something like that. Small.
And they have a big yellow patch on their front, which is why they're called sun bears, and they tell them apart by the patch on their front, which is each unique. So then you go to the Sepalak Orangutan Center, which is right next to the Sun Bear Center. And they also try and rehome the ones they rescue. I think they said they've rehomed about a third of them. Most of the rest, the same thing, they aren't gonna be able to rehome because either they're too habituated to people or they're too traumatized. This is all Sepalaka's primary rainforest, and that orangutan sanctuary is not fenced. These orangutans could leave, wild orangutans come in, and they have a feeding twice a day where you can, kind of watch them congregate, but you see them a lot walking around the boardwalks anyway. So this is what they call the nursery, where littler ones come in to feed. And then the orangutans all like to walk on the rails on the boardwalks you're on. And so they'll just start walking right in front of you, and a guard will come from nowhere and make sure you stay 20 feet back, and then you can just walk behind him down the boardwalk. So you're guaranteed to see orangutans if you come here. You're not guaranteed to see them in the wild or see them close enough to really see them.
Are you supposed to stay 20 feet away because they're gonna come after you, or just to give them space?
To give them space.
Do you remember the orangutans in any way, which way but loose?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're incredibly strong.
You don't want
Let's see.
to rip off a car
Let's
door.
see if I can.
Yeah, exactly. But you just don't want to be around them if they decide
How
to
do
move
I-
quick.
So this is there we go. Let's see if I can start this. Okay, so it's the main feeding center. They have all these ropes and all the orangutans come in on ropes. And then, whoops. I have to go to the,
Yep, there you go.
okay, yeah, so that's another one coming in with a baby. And the first time we went there, the big male was there. I guess it's pretty rare to get to see him. And so the mom of the baby was up on top of the rope, and she'd come down and grab bananas and run back up and eat them. She'd never stay down there. And so this was the last time we went the second trip, and there were almost no orangutans, but as you can see, the macaques went nuts. They were actually really fun to watch. And then this was a big male. Bert stayed late at the feeding, and he was walking back with another woman, and the male walked out in front of him, like how far away? 5 or 10 feet?
Yeah.
Like right in front of
Probably
him.
as big as you, easily.
Yeah,
Oh,
really big.
yeah,
And he kind of
bigger
stopped, and then
Yeah.
eventually a guard materialized, and they followed all the way down the rail until he went over into the no admittance area, climbed the fence. So now we're going, this is just kind of shows you a Google image, and you can see all the kind of cultivation there is in there, and then the parts that are still forested. So this was our ride into the first lodge we went to. And we were stuck here for a long time because there was a big ravine there, and there was nothing to build a bridge across it. And finally, people leaving the lodge were coming down, and we switched cars and went in and got there 3 hours late. So this was a good adventure. So this is our first glimpse of the primary rainforest going into Danum.
I see a bird.
Yeah, no idea what it is. Okay, and so they're just all these vines on top of everything. A lot of them are figs. And I was kind of always entranced with the
Size of it.
the things curling around. And this is a wild fig, which is pretty much what all the primates eat. It's kind of a mainstay of the rainforest. There are a whole bunch of different kinds of wild figs. So this is Danum Rainforest Preserve. It was probably the most upscale lodge we were at. You go on hikes through the canopy, and it's really, 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 really hot.
Like over 100, 105?
No, like 85 to 90 degrees and super high humidity.
Yeah,
With no wind.
120 humidity.
This was the fanciest place we stayed. We had our deck. We had our own plunge pool that went directly into the shower with this field in front that filled up with wildlife. We only had this because we were trying to book the cheaper ones, and then we couldn't. So unfortunately, there were lots of macaques around. They walked the rails everywhere. And then these are sambar deer. I pulled this off the internet, but there were a whole bunch of sambar deer in the field in front of our house the first night we went to go on a night tour. And then under the lodge, the picture went away. It was an Indonesian wildcat, which is one of the 5 cat species, and so they're 3 to 9 pounds. They look like lovely house cats, but our guide said he took one home and it killed all of his cats.
Oh, yes. Look at those ears.
And this, I just took this picture
Termites?
because it creeped me out. I think it's termites, but it was just creepy. This was the viewpoint platform we went to look down on the rainforest camp. These are lantern bugs,
Wow.
which are all over. They eat sap out of the trees. There are a whole bunch of different kinds. Really beautiful. And then this one was at Tavin, and that's a different kind of lantern bug. And we didn't see many birds here because we were really in the jungle. We saw them now and then, but they were really hard to find. This was kind of creepy too. This was at night, and there was 2 ants and a centipede having to face off. And then this, if you can see it, there's a teeny tiny praying mantis, which the guy said was the smallest praying mantis in the world. I don't know if that's true or not because there are other pygmy praying mantises around. I don't know how he even found it. So
He's pointing on the end of his finger.
Unless you probably have a laser pointer on.
Oh.
Yeah, there
right
you go.
there, that's the praying mantis. Really tiny.
Camouflage.
Yeah, I sacrificed my finger.
Yeah, so this
They
was,
decided not to eat me though.
when you go to these lodges, they're all set up for you to be there for 2 days. And they have like 3 activities a day. You go through the thing of activities, and there's like a morning thing, a midday thing, and a night thing. And we stayed everywhere 3 days, and they kind of don't have a plan for the 3rd day because you're just supposed to be there 2 days. And you can't really just show up and book rooms. You have to go through a travel agent that sets something up. So this was a night walk, and it was supposed to be an insect thing, but we started out and saw the sambar deer and the Indonesian wildcat and 3 kinds of civets and an owl. And then finally we got to the stuff that we were supposed to see, which were insects. They do have a raised walkway, which was gorgeous to be on. We thought we'd see lots of birds, and we didn't hear one bird. But this, Bert and Penny happily walking down
Are you
the
having
walkway.
fun?
But it was really cool just going up around the trees and stuff. And then we walked back on the road, and for some reason Bert was on the topic of psychedelic mushrooms and cow poop, and we found mushrooms going out of the elephant poop in the middle of the road.
Did you try them, Bert?
Nope.
Yes.
They look good.
And this is twice we came close to pygmy elephants. This is one time we left later this morning. There's 5 kilometers of the road with pygmy elephant footprints that didn't have any car tracks through them, and cars go on the road all day, but we never saw the elephants, and they finally veered off the road. And this is these pill bugs they have,
Roly-polies.
roly-polies. They're about 2 inches in diameter.
That's a big one.
They're big, and they're really fun to watch walk.
Straight out of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Look at his eyes.
Actually, yeah.
Impressive with the cameras you had.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. You were pretty close to a lot of stuff, so. Whoops. Okay, so this is just another Google image. The first place we went to when we were on the trip with Penny, it was Penny and my sister and Bert and I, was Sukhel Rainforest Lodge. And we kind of went up about this far here and probably all the way down to here, somewhere in here. The second time we went to Kinabatangan Wetlands Resort. We pretty much spent our time between Abai and here, but we did go all the way up here to a place midway between the two that we'd also visited from Sukhel Rainforest Lodge. This,
Boats?
And then
yeah, you're in boats. So you fly into these lodges, you do everything by boat. There's kind of this whole, there's a sanctuary corridor all along the river, and then it's cultivated back behind it. This is a new resort. It was great because when we were down here, we never saw anybody else at all in any boats anywhere. We went up past Sabah and maybe saw one boat there. When you're up at Sukhel, there are all these rainforest lodges, and they're all way more people in boats. Both times we were kind of there in low season, so they weren't using all the boats, and the boats weren't full of people. It would probably be really awful to be there in April through September when it's high season, but it was really nice being down here away from everything. They were totally different experiences. This is all mangrove palm forest, and this is all secondary forest, irregular trees and stuff. We saw tons of orangutans down here, saw lots of birds up there. I don't know if that had to do with the season or what. So this is just the first trip in 6 days, that's what we saw. And most things, there were multiple sightings of all those.
Crested serpent eagle.
They're really cool.
Yeah, that they only eat crested serpents.
Yeah. So, I mean, you see a lot of stuff in a short period of time.
How long were you there?
We were there in lodges for 6 days the
6
first
days.
time, because we saw more stuff that added to this the second time, and we saw a bunch of the same things and other stuff.
You saw so many cats, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Whoops. So we left from Sundakan and we went in the ocean around to the entrance of the river in a boat. This was just the fishing port in Sundakan. And this is coming up the river. They're kind of, all the way along, strung out their villages and houses. Everybody does everything by water. Parts of it, there's a road back behind. But there are only a couple of places the road comes down that you can actually access the river. And then these palm oil plantations, they export their oil on barges and stuff, and so there are these roads that go back through the
Tank
forest.
trucks on the barges.
And trucks on the barges. So there's lots and lots of barge traffic right up and down the river. So this is Sukai Rainforest Lodge, just the one we were at in 2022. As you can see, has some issues.
So you said there weren't many people there. Was that in any way due to COVID as well?
No, it was because of the season,
That's
because
because of the season.
yeah, because October could be the start of the rainy season. So the other thing about these lodges is whoever you arrive with on the day you arrive, you're in a group with. So we had like 9 people in our group in Denham, which was a pain to have that many people walking around with them until people started dropping out because they didn't like leeches and stuff, because you do get leeches on you.
Okay, mark Borneo off.
Now and then.
I bet that's not in the brochure.
Up here, there's nobody to ride with us. So Bert and my sister and Penny and I had our own boat until the last day when we kind of got put in with another couple because we weren't on the normal rotation. So they're all boardwalked, and the bungalows are off the boardwalk. It's really good for looking at insects and stuff when you walk around at night. There was an orangutan in a tree right off the boardwalk when we first came, but he was kind of way up there and kind of asleep, so he didn't do much, and then he left. This is a tractor millipede. It's about that long. They were really cool. So this is the first day on the river, and this was by far the best bird viewing we have. It was this one day was incredible. We didn't see many birds at all down in Sabah, and I don't know if that's because of the environment or the season, since they were totally different times of year. So this is the birds here that we do have. This is a blue-throated blue-throated beekeeper. And we actually saw it. It took off and it smashed into a moth in the air and knocked it into the water and then went and ate it. And this is a stork-billed kingfisher. They're the biggest kingfishers. I mean, they're probably like that. They were really, really common, but they're really cool looking.
I think they just like tickle.
And an anhinga, or an oriental darter. I'm spacing out the name of this. Milo can tell me.
Malibu stork?
No, it's
Come on, Milo.
It's a stork.
I know,
don't like to
for
say.
some reason, I keep spacing out the names. Oh, well, I'll come up with it some,
What do you got?
it's a lesser adjutant, a lesser adjutant.
Oh,
Laura gets the point.
Wow. She got adjutant.
Okay, there are 8 species of hornbills in Borneo. We saw 6 of them in the 2-3 days we were at Sukau. So this is a rhinoceros hornbill, a helmeted hornbill, which is either the rarest or the second most rare hornbill, and our guy was super excited because he hadn't seen one in 15
Is that a male?
years.
I would assume it is. Milo, then you're no help, are you?
not with
Okay.
hornbills.
I don't think they change a whole lot from male to female.
They don't have a dimorphism? Okay.
No, and the other thing the guy told us, and Bert remembers this more than I do, but you can tell them apart by their wing beats. So they do like 1 wing beat, or 2 wing beats, or 3 wing beats, so by the way they
beats
fly.
between coasts, they'll do 3 flaps and then glide, and 3 flaps and then glide.
So these are oriental pied pied hornbills. And then we also think we saw Asian black hornbills, bushy hornbills, and wrinkled hornbills, just in the 3 days we were here. The second trip, we only saw rhinoceros hornbills and pied hornbills. We saw way less. Just coming back, you'd come back at night as it was turning into dusk. It was quite beautiful. So this is us in our boat. This is after the 3rd day when we had the other people with us. This is probably the first proboscis monkey we saw. Proboscis monkey. And this was kind of sad because the macaques were foraging on basically a garbage dump in the river, picking up pieces of food and stuff. This is the dock from a palm oil plantation. The plantation's been closed down. They told us that they now have this palm oil consortium thing that you have to get certified to be part of. To really sell your palm oil, you have to be certified. They started it in 2015. You can't fell any trees. You can't convert peat to palm oils. You have to protect wildlife. They wanted to have everybody in it by 2025. It's only got 25% now. But if you have a spill of palm oil in the river, transporting it, you get closed down. So this dock is no longer used because that's what happened to them. Saltwater crocodile, of which there were enough that we had no plans to go swimming.
No.
And these are swiftlet nests.
Oh. This is what you make the.
Birds
Yeah,
nests out of.
Use your laser pointer to point them out.
So these are all little nests. They're kind of really hard to see, but it's all little nests in there.
So that's what the bird's nest soup is made out of.
You know, I've always thought you had to be really hard up to the person who figured out we're gonna eat this thing.
I know.
You know?
And they did say that originally all the indigenous people collected bird nests. Up until the 1990s, it wasn't an issue, and then industry got in and they started taking nests before the babies hatched and stuff, and they really did it in the population. And then the government stopped it and handed the rights to take nests in the wild back to the local communities, so the businesses can't do it anymore. But everybody is doing swiftfoot houses. I think it's all over Asia, and so they, have their own production of nests. You saw them all along the river, so I think it was pretty good income for people in the villages. They said it's like somewhere between $1,000 to $10,000 a kilo for birds' nests, and the white ones are a lot more. But it probably takes really a lot of them to make a kilo. So this is just kind of like the little side as soon as you go down what it's like. A macaque eating figs. So this was, they have these places in the side sloughs where they built bridges across the side sloughs, mostly for the orangutans because they can't swim. But the macaques and the other monkeys use them because they run the risk of getting eaten by saltwater crocodiles if they swim across. So the first time we went up there, there's this whole school of macaques going across, group of macaques going across.
What do you call it?
I don't know what they are. What are they? Anyway, they were going across, and the young ones were just playing. It was hysterical. Whoops. Oh, a couple pictures disappeared. Oh, well, they'll be later. And there was one that was terrified of this. And he kept clinging on, and he'd go 2 feet, then he'd cling on, and then the rest of them were doing loop-de-loops. This is a bronzeback snake that the guide fished out of a bush to show us.
He's pretty.
Yeah, he's really pretty. Non-venomous. And this is a Colugo lemur. There are 2 species of Colugo lemurs. They're only in Asia. They're not related at all to other lemurs. They're most related to primates. They can glide a really long way. They have all this skin in between their body and their arm. So they sleep in the day and glide at night. And this was a tree that was growing out of the deck at the lodge. And he stayed in the tree all day and kind of went up and down over a 5-foot piece of space of time. So you could just kind of go out and keep looking at him. And then he disappeared overnight. Another just scenery picture. So this is Dubai now. I just like the picture with the black squirrel raiding the garbage underneath the owl up above.
Come on, look close.
That's real, yeah.
That's an owl picture.
Oh, there was a picture. Oh,
picture of an owl. Picture of an owl.
That fell for it too.
Say, hell, that's a hell of a composition.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an eastern crimson sunbird that was right outside the lodge.
It's really hard to get a picture of.
Yeah. And this is called a simple air flower. So this is a seed pod that's the flower. That's the seed pod. It's a bush. I said birds and monkeys really like the seeds. The plants have a whole lot of medicinal uses. They use the leaves to wrap food in, and then it's planted in gardens as ornamentals to attract birds. So it's a really cool looking plant. So that was This is a blue-eared kingfisher. And there were tons and tons of kingfishers. We saw a whole bunch of different kinds. We really only have pictures of the Starkbill kingfisher and this one, which we saw a lot. So this is the second trip, and it was Tim, yours, and Carol Peckham and Bert and I.
They've aged well.
Yeah. Yeah, Kim doesn't have as much hair if he takes his hat off.
Most of us don't.
Yep. This is a collared kingfisher. And so we saw a whole bunch of orangutans down there. This is the first one we saw in a tree. He's just kind of
Pointer.
right there hanging on the trunk eating
Oh,
something
that's
right
his
there.
face.
And I think this was the early morning or the morning trip. They build a nest every night and sleep in it. So I suspect he had a nest in that tree. And they build a new nest every single night. So that's the second one we saw. And I have a little, this is really jumpy, but
I think it's maximum zoom on an iPhone.
Pretty cool. What a face.
I think those ones we were maybe 15 to 20 feet away from the orangutan in that one.
then we came across this guy and he has crayfish pots out. And he was picking them up and he said he has to get out to them before the macaques come because they take all the crayfish out. So he has to get out there first thing. So this is, I think this is a little.
Thank you.
And the proboscis monkeys, or like in the morning when you first went out, the monkeys are all waking up. And particularly proboscis monkeys, there'll be these huge shows of them leaping from tree to tree and moving down the riverbank. And
Are they noisy?
yeah, they're really noisy crashing through the bushes.
I mean, do they vocalize?
No, I don't think, they didn't make, no, they didn't really make any noise. They just made lots of noise crashing through the bushes, like not real graceful. So this is the mangrove palms. They're the same as regular mangrove forests, other places, but they're palms instead. There was this teeny little channel. The guide knew there was a big male gorilla down here, which is why we went here. Orangutan, sorry. Orangutan. The coolest thing about going down here was there were clouds of night herons. And as we were driving down, all the night herons were, flying away from us. You couldn't get a picture because they were flying too fast. But so we found the male gorilla.
No, we didn't.
Orangutan.
Orangutan. We found the male orangutan. We were like, I don't know, 12 feet away from him.
He's
maybe.
totally giving you a dirty look.
Yeah, we were touching the palm fronds, and then the guy said, if you get too close, I'll let you know it's his pleasure. So we went a little bit closer, and he like shook a palm frond at us and made a noise, and then we backed up a little bit.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Very nice of him to warn you.
So they break off the new shoots and eat them. And they completely stay out of the water because they can't swim, so they just
And the
wander through the.
They keep going along from palm tree to palm tree until they find one they can break off and rip out, and then they munch on it for a while.
Yeah.
So we went back to the monkey bridge, and this time these are pigtailed macaques. They're bigger and they look a lot more aggressive. And this male was up on the bridge. The rest of his troop wanted to cross, or troops I remember. He wouldn't let him cross. He sat there and he was doing dagger eyes at another macaque across the bridge. He finally got rid of him and walked across. And then he got to the other side and sat there, but he still wasn't letting them cross. And as he was standing there, we were like right below this thing. A little piece fell off, so he jumped on something else, and then that whole tree trunk fell off a foot in front of our boat across the river. But it's really fun watching, if there are monkeys there, it's really fun watching them go on the bridge. So this, I had a couple more pictures to show you, but things got messed up somehow. This was a pair of proboscis monkeys. The whole troop had moved on. The one on the left did not want to jump. And it kept going to the end of the branch and coming back, and going to the end of the branch and coming back, and sitting there and looking and coming back. after about 20 minutes, finally jumped, and the whole rest of the troop was long gone. This is Tabon, the last place we went. Most of Tabon is secondary forest. There's an area of primary rainforest in the very middle, which as a guest you can't go to. It's surrounded by palm oil plantations, and the lodge area is just inside the reserve on the edge of the palm oil plantation. So there were lots of geckos, so that's just the obligatory gecko picture. And I don't know why I suppose that would be an Indian rhinoceros or something. So this I pulled out the mouse. This is a mouse deer, and they're teeny. They're like this. We saw two of them. The first one disappeared so quickly, hardly knew what it was. The second one crossed the road in Tabon, but we couldn't get cameras out fast enough. They're really shy and hang out in the underbrush.
Those fangs are so weird.
You notice they have fangs.
Yeah.
He's got, they're
Oh, wow.
carnivorous.
Doesn't seem like.
And this is Wallace's hawk eagle. For some reason, we didn't get any good pictures, and I don't know why, because there were tons of them, and they're always really close. But
Can use some side eye.
and so this was a really big green Borneo keeled pit viper, and if you could see, it had eaten something because it had little bumps where the feet of whatever it had eaten stuck out. And the whole time we were at the lodge, it was in this tree and didn't move, digesting whatever it ate. Carol was freaked out because she hates snakes. We were standing right under it, but I was just kind of like, it's not going to move for like forever because.
I'm with Carol.
Me too. That's why I'm here in Alaska.
So these were all over in the forest floor in Tabon. Could not figure out what they were. The guide said something about worm tunnels. I looked it up online. They're from cicadas, and the cicadas pretty much spend their life underground, and they just emerge when they're gonna, as adults, to breed. And so in wet areas, they build these tunnels to kind of try and keep the mud and water out of their underground burrows. So, and I don't know, they said they emerged between March and May, and this was like March 20th or something. So I don't, and some are falling over, so I'm thinking maybe they'd already emerged, but I don't know. This is a Bornean falconet. And monitor lizards asleep in a tree, which I didn't realize they did, but we saw a number of them sleeping on branches.
Oh.
So
Very cool.
they called this, well, Tabon giant tree. What our guide told us, well, they also call these broccoli trees, I guess. They're the tallest trees in the rainforest. That's all that was left in Tabon in the part we were in. The guide told us that they were still there because they weren't worth much for lumber, and so they logged everything around it and left it. I tried to look it up online, couldn't find anything. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's definitely all that was left in Tabon. Everything else was obviously second growth. And they have a boiling mud volcano in Tabon, which just kind of bubbles away, not hugely. They had a big event about 7 months ago from when we were there, where actually this whole flow came down on this side, and they have a bird observation tower on stilts, and it pushes off its foundation, so you couldn't go in it. But we could kind of walk right around. Just had to be careful where you walked up there. And supposedly it's really good for wildlife viewing, and if you could spend the night in the tower, you might see some really cool stuff, but it was off limits. I get the impression they didn't have a lot of money for keeping things up. And then part of the thing is you do a glacial facial thing over this tropical mud bathing. And you put your feet in this water that supposedly has all these herbs in it that are soothing, and you paint your face and you sit there, and then you clean yourself off, and then they bring you this special tea. So it was part of the tour. So this is a palm forest on the edge, and it was fabulous wildlife viewing. I think it's because all the predators are crossing from the forest to the palm oil plantation at night. I'm assuming because there are a lot of rodents and snakes and stuff in the palm oil plantation. So there was just stuff all along the road. We took this picture. I don't know what kind of owl it is. I had a list of all the birds we saw, and I lost it. We saw 3 different kinds of owl this night. This is the second one we saw, a buffy fish owl that were really big.
What is that, Liz?
This is a buffy fish owl.
actually fish.
And then this is a marbled cat, which the second, the 5 cats in Borneo, the Sunda leopard, the marbled cat, a flat-headed cat, the Indonesian wild cat. I forget the name of the other one, which is super rare and they hardly even know where it breeds or anything. So we also saw a flat-headed cat this night. So we saw 3 of the 5 species of cats when we were in Borneo. We saw a whole bunch of Indonesian wild cats along this
So they
road.
don't take
Probably saw
off when
5.
you
Huh?
throw the light on? They don't take off when you throw the
No,
Oh.
This is a Malayan civet, which he was lighting with a green light, so it's really hard to get a picture. But
That's amazing, you got a picture of that.
yeah, but we saw lots of Malaysian civets and palm civets here.
Oh, how big is that?
Another centipede of some sort. So these are hammerhead worms. And it
Ew.
rained and they all came out. And they are invasive in the US. I looked them up online. They leave a slime trail.
Scrub your shoes.
They eat each other,
Oh, good.
just like slugs.
Good.
If you cut one in half, it turns into 2.
Oh, it's such fun.
And you have to get rid of them since, they eat each other when you kill them, just like what we have. And they primarily eat earthworms, and they secrete an enzyme on them to dissolve them, and then they slowly eat them. So they all came out after it rained, and they were kind of creepy. They weren't very big, but I guess they can get really big. So this is the last thing. We didn't see any gibbons the first trip. The second trip, there was a troop of gibbons that came to Rabai every morning and took them about 20 minutes to go through. So here's one in a tree, but then to get the full gibbon experience.
There you go.
So we just follow the line watching the whole way through the resort. And, whoops, the last slide thing about Borneo.
That's the model shot.
Yeah, the model shot. And from what I gathered online, Sabah's way ahead in terms of conservation of a lot of the places. They're starting to make a big thing about preserving wildlife because they realize there's a lot of money in tourism. They've protected more areas. They told us that they're trying to make wildlife corridors between some of the primary forests. And from what I read, they're kind of ahead of most of the rest of
Well, all those
Malaysian
palm oil
Indonesia.
plantations, they import labor for it, so they don't get much local,
Economy.
yeah.
And the other thing, if you're interested in going there, so all these lodges, like you look them up, and if you try and book it, they send you to a travel agent that books them for you. And they all have these tours, 2-night here, a 3-night thing here, da 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 da. So the first time we went with this thing called Borneo Eco Tours, they were super hard to work with. They didn't get back to us forever. That's why we had to buy the really expensive accommodations at Phantom, which is worth it. And the second time, Lahad Datu is a little town in between Danam and Taban, and to drive into those places, you go from Lahad Datu. So we found this really cool place to stay in Lahad Datu, and it turns out that guy is local, and he does a little travel agent. The second time, we just told him what he wanted to do. He booked everything. They picked us up at the airport. They took us everywhere. They dropped us back at the airport. He texted us every day to make sure we were doing okay. And it was like maybe $200 more than if we'd gone through somebody else.
Oh, nice.
So if you want to go, it's really worth talking to him as opposed to going with some of these other things. And it was also really worth it staying 3 days everywhere instead of 2 because, it kind of run you through all the things you do. But if you stay a third day, you can kind of a little bit say what you want to do or go back and see something that was really, really cool. So, any questions?
Well, in Simon's place, that tour guide, they have that, bike and breakfast or whatever
Yeah.
place. And she cooks and it's
She has
so
a
good.
She has a cookbook, and people come from all over to eat at their little restaurant. And She
So
comes out and
that's-
explains what she's cooking. It's the most incredible food, like Malaysian food, Indian food. And it's not very expensive to stay there, and you get to eat there if you're staying there. So, any questions from anybody? Okay. I do have the, if anybody wants to look at the Borneo bird book, or if anybody wants to borrow it.
Thank you very much, that was
You're
really
welcome.
fun.
A while.
Christine, do you have another Tuesday night talk scheduled for next